Okay, we have here a Canadian dime made at the Philadelphia Mint. This has the British monarch Elizabeth II on it, and a large sailboat. This is the only issue we officially struck for Canada. Apparently a small number of 1969 dated trial strikes are known to exist, but other than those and millions of these, that's the only coin we made for Canada. And the way to know, because Canada made them too, is that the edge will have a slightly different quality than those that are actually struck in Canada. And that's the only way to tell whether one of these was made in Philadelphia or Ottawa. Now let's move on to a more interesting country, China. Now China has a rather long and interesting history. As it turns out, the very first coins that we had made in the U.S. Mint for a foreign use was the trade dollar, and they were specifically for use with China, maybe some other places around there, but principally China. As you see, this is in 1878. It's not listed in Alton Barton because what happened was that since these are in the Red Book, they're well known and usually collected as regular American coins. They're not usually categorized as being foreign coins. But they were demonetized in 1876. So this 1878 S trade dollar has never been legal tender in the United States, whereas another one made in 1873 would have been. So temporarily. So it's kind of in an odd category. So some people kind of want to not include it. I think there's a good reason, at least as part of the saga. If nothing else, it brings in another mint. Carson City made some of those. It's the only thing Carson City ever meant for overseas use. Another interesting thing is that these large silver rounds, when the Chinese government was struggling in 1949, we made more coins like this. We made them exactly the same specifications as the Chinese dollar from that span, with the same year and everything, so that you can't even tell that these are not made in 1934 as the Chinese ones were, but in 1949 at Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. And of course, there's no mint marks or any way to know that that's where this came from. So the Chinese junk boat on the back, very well known, rather popular and fairly common coin. Unfortunately, that's all there is for the old China as a republic. Now, we had in 1936 made these coins also for China. Unfortunately, they were all melted down, and all they even had for Alton Barton to take a picture of was a specimen that was nickel. And I guess this looks like a $50 here, and there's a dollar somewhere. So there's some patterns surviving. That's all. Unless you want to get into trying to track down rare patterns, you won't have those. So that usually gets disregarded. But we did make them, and we do know them. In fact, to sustain the Chinese government, we continued making large silver rounds that looked like this, also in 1949, this time dated 1898. We also had Mexico make a bunch of them as well, all to try to help the Chinese government avoid being overthrown by the communists. But it was all to no avail, and we'll talk more about this when we get to Mexico. It was all to no avail. The Republic of China and Chiang Kai-shek were all exiled to the tiny island of Formosa, or Taiwan now. But as Taiwan, and comes after Alton Barton, of course, in 1973 and 74, Denver struck a whole bunch of these 1 yuan coins, and Philadelphia struck a whole bunch of these 5 yuan coins. And you can actually see apparently the ones that are dated Chinese year 63 seem to be the ones that are actually made in America. There's very slight, subtle die variations that kind of reveal that. For example, if you compare with, with this other one here made the year later that is not made in the U.S., you can see that the Chinese lettering looks a lot more thin and daintier, so to speak, than the American ones. And this differs because that's 3 for 63, and that's that's the 4. So you can see that. And by the way, here there's the same 3. Well, that one's for the year 23, the Chinese year 23. So that's what we did for China. This is not American. Was these two coins here for Taiwan as an exiled Chinese government, and this was for, we made these for the Chinese government on the brink of being exiled by the communists. But before that, we had done business with the emperors of China back in the 1800s with the trade dollar. So that really represents the true start of official foreign coins made, in the U.S. Mint. Only these look obviously very American. So, but that's just an interesting piece of history that I think should be revealed in full. Well, I think that's covered China and Canada. Thank you very much.